Hi, welcome back to Module 1 Course Introduction. This is Lesson 1 Course Overview, and we're currently in Sublesson 1.3, the course flyover. In this lesson, we're going to briefly go over the concepts and topics that we will discuss during the duration of this course, and there is a lot of them, so let's go ahead and get started. In the remainder of this section, we will briefly go over database engines, some of the similarities and differences. Following that, we'll go through an environment setup in both Windows and Linux. That'll help you follow along and code along in this course. In the next module, Module 2, Databases, we'll go over the different database relationships such as the one-to-one, the one-to-many, the many-to-many, and how to efficiently and effectively implement those relationship types. Following that, we'll go over some schema design concepts, some ERD software that can be used to help with development. And as an example, we'll actually look at the one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many designed in some ERD software. Following that lesson, we'll go through some very basic admin, just how to back up and restore a database. Definitely useful if you're going to be doing development. Following that, we'll go into some SQL joins, the inner join, the right outer join, the left outer join, the cross join, as well as some other topics in that section. In the next module, Module 3, SQL Programming 1, we will go over SQL statements such as select, update, insert, delete, queries such as queries to include writing queries themselves, subqueries, complex updates, complex deletes. Then we'll take a look at views, which are virtual tables created from queries. Next, we'll move into table expressions, which are virtual tables that you create on the fly for use in primary queries. We'll take a look at that when we get to that section. This is, of course, just a course flyover, so we're not going into any great detail on these concepts. We're just briefly discussing what we will be going over. In Lesson 5, tables, we'll look at the create statements, the primary keys, the foreign keys, the constraints, the indexes. Don't worry if you're unfamiliar with the terminology. We will be discussing what that terminology means as we move through the course. The point here is that we are really discussing all the different components of a database that brings a database application together and allows it to function in a predictable manner that really works out for the users and the developers involved. So in the next module, Module 4, SQL Programming 2, we go a little deeper into SQL programming concepts. We'll talk about SQL functions, the functions that come out of the box with MySQL, as well as how to define your own functions to meet your very specific needs. We'll then go into SQL procedures, how those vary from functions, and when it's appropriate to use a procedure or a function. Next, we'll look at concurrency and transactions. Concurrency and transactions deals with efficiently and effectively sharing resources between processes. For example, if you have two processes that are going to update the same record in a database, you may need to make sure that that happens in the right order or that they do not overwrite each other. And we'll take a look at that in that section. Next, we'll move into SQL triggers, which are database actions that occur after specific events, such as an insert, update, or delete. Next, we'll go into SQL events. SQL events are processes that you can schedule on a scheduler that will happen at a specific time. These are all useful tools to have in your database tool belt. So in the next module, Module 5, SQL Development, we'll take a look at the various concepts that can be used in development, such as design patterns, how to identify requirements. And then for the remainder of that module, we'll actually be implementing a pseudo requirement database that was developed specifically for this course. It will deal with a CMS type database in which it tracks articles, users, categories, and tags. We'll then look at implementing the various features of a database that we discussed in previous lessons within that database. Then in Module 6, SQL and Applications, we'll take a look at the various types of, and talk about the various types of applications that can connect to a database to meet specific objectives. Power BI is a popular reporting tool that connects to many types of databases to display charting data. Following the Power BI example, we'll take a look at connecting Excel to the database and again charting data and taking a brief look at how Excel can interact with a database. And then finally in Module 7, we are at the course closing, where we will again discuss what we learned in the course, and where to go from here. So that brings us to the end of this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy this course. Thanks. Bye.